Welcome back. Panelists here. The former Republican governor of North Carolina, Pat McCrory. Yamiche Alcindor, White House correspondent for the PBS NewsHour. Presidential historian Doris Kearns-Goodwin, whose latest book, by the way, is Leadership in Turbulent Times. And David Maraniss of the Washington Post. And he's author of a new book, A Good American Family. It's about his own family's ordeal during the Red Scare and McCarthyism of the 1950s. Nice to see you, David and Doris. Yamiche, I want to start with this sound with Nancy Pelosi. We've gone over about a 2-month period where she's going from defiantly anti-impeachment to rhetorically more open to it. Take a listen.
They wanted me to impeach President Bush for the Iraq War. I didn't believe in it then. I don't believe in it now. It divides the country. The president is demonstrating on a daily basis his obstruction of justice. This president is obstructing justice, and he's engaged in a cover-up. And that could be an impeachable offense.
Yamiche, is she getting closer to impeachment, or is she trying to keep Congresswoman Tlaib happy?
Well, if you speak to the Pelosi camp, it sounds as if they're still saying she's saying that we need to be in a fact-finding. Obviously, Hakeem Jeffries just told you that they're still in the middle of really gathering the information. But I talked to a source this week who said this freshman class of Democrats has a really loud voice and they have more power than freshman classes before them. So when you listen to Rashid Tlaib and you asked her specifically, why can't you convince the majority of the House to go with you? She didn't blink. She said, she sounded very confident when she said that we're moving in that direction. So I think she's in some ways pointing to Nancy Pelosi's move and saying, hey, we're hearing that her language change. I also talked to someone at the White House who said when the president heard Nancy Pelosi talk about a cover-up, he instantly started thinking about President Nixon and the idea what gave in or what really took down Nixon was the cover-up. So that source told me she knows what she's doing. So I think most people, including people in the White House, see that not just as a shift of rhetoric, but her moving closer and closer to impeachment.
David Maraniss, you forced yourself to get out of Washington a lot. You go back to the lovely country of Wisconsin as we there. What do they say? What is the conversation there when it comes to Trump and impeachment?
I think it's not that different from Washington, honestly. I mean, I think that there are a lot of activists who very much are pushing in that direction, and the majority of people are not thinking about it. You know, we define Washington as just the political class, but there's a lot more to it here than that. But I think that what's happening is that Nancy Pelosi, there's a fine line between not acting out of fear and acting out of political smarts. And whenever you act just out of fear or not act out of fear, then that's a mistake. But she's trying to be politically smart and get to that point where it's inactive.
Pat McCrory, does the president want to be impeached? You know, that's been a question. Does he want it, or does he just want to create the wedge?
I think it's helpful to the Republican Party and Trump's reelection if this process continues. I don't think it's good for the country. And I don't think
you think it's good politically, though, for the Republicans?
It's good politically, but I don't think it's good for the country, and it's not good for the presidency, this presidency or future presidencies. I do say this, that Speaker Pelosi, I think, can no longer be called the adult in the room because she's pressured, like her predecessor was in the Republican Party, Speaker Ryan, by a caucus that, frankly, has gerrymandered districts. Their fear is from the left in future primaries, not in a general election. The same dynamics occur in both the Republican and Democratic Party with speakers of the House and state legislators like my own and right here in Washington, D.C. She's trying to appease them. She's trying to herd them into a coalition. But just today, look at the names that have been called: studio gangster, dictator, corruption, misled Congress, pay to play, obstruction of justice, so-called attorney general. This is not good for our country.
Doris, I want to read you something Michelle Goldberg wrote this week about this issue. She said, it's true that were Trump to be reelected after such a reckoning, meaning basically surviving a trial after impeachment, he might be even further unleashed. But were Trump to be reelected in the absence of impeachment, it would still be seen as a vindication for him and would leave Democrats humiliated by their excess of caution.
I think that the real challenge right now for the Democrats, whether they do investigations or whether they move toward an impeachment inquiry, they have to present a story, a narrative to the American people that they understand what the behavior is and how it reflects upon the Constitution. One of the things Lincoln always said is that with public sentiment, nothing can fail. Without it, nothing can succeed. What we don't have yet, we have a scattershot, it's partly what you were talking about, of things against Mr. Trump. Unless we understand how did this all begin, what were the origins, not just the origins that he's asking for, but what is Mueller going to say about why this happened? Why were these people indicted? Why were people so sensitive about Russia? Where's the beginning, the middle, and the end? People understand a story. They're not going to understand scattershots. And that if you can create public sentiment, then you're going to be moving the country along.
Who should do that?
Well,
Who's in charge of leading that conversation?
It's not just the Congress. It's what the candidates on the 2020 campaign
You think they should be talking about it?
They're going to have to talk, but they've already been asked about it. But it's not just a question of saying I'm for or against impeachment. They have to argue, and we need Mueller there. We need the story to be told from Mueller, not from Attorney General Barr. And until the American people understand, this is what FDR did so great. He explained complicated issues in fireside chats so you understood them. So it's up to the political class right now, if they're going to go forward with impeachment, or even if they're not, to be able to understand what has happened. Where's the beginning, the middle, and the end of this story?
But it's a lot easier for one person to tell that story
And
brilliantly than 24.
the internet doesn't. No, I agree totally.
Yeah.
But that's what leadership is.
Yep.
And that's the most important part of leadership right now, wherever it comes from. And whoever can do that best, they're going to be able to
I don't
do it.
disagree with you on Mueller needing to speak, but I also say we almost need a church commission, as many Republicans think, on really reviewing what are the guidelines now for investigations. Listen, I've been a governor whose administration's been investigated before, and it literally makes you temperamental. It brings down your staff. It dilutes any work that you can do on the side. You're nervous about, especially if you feel like everything you've done is right, not wrong. And we've got to make sure that we really review what guidelines are used, especially if we investigate candidates in the future.
But Doris is talking about a narrative, and why you see Hakeem Jeffries saying the so-called Attorney General is because Democrats are in some ways very furious because Attorney General Barr was pretty good at setting a narrative for the president. The president's very happy with Attorney General Barr, and all the people that I talked to, both on the Trump campaign and the Trump White House, feel as though they have a coherent narrative. Democrats are mad about the 2016 election. They're going to go harass me. Now they want to impeach me. It's all about keeping me out of this office. So the Republicans have kind of lined up their narrative.
Absolutely.
And Democrats, as you see them now, I think, fighting over this issue of impeachment, they're going to have to decide whether they have a narrative as well.
And it goes back to the person best able to make the case is a person that I don't think wants to make the case, which is Speaker Pelosi.
I think she's beginning to, though. I think by talking about obstruction of justice and by saying we're moving methodically, we're going step by step, she's in charge right now. But, I mean, she needs to make the narrative, too. No one's made it yet on the Democratic side. And you're absolutely right. The Attorney General has made the narrative, and the President is now carrying it forward. They've won the messaging right now.
She may simply be buying time in order to say wait for 2020. Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and then click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.